All right. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Civil Chat. Glad you all can make it. Um, Looks like we got some new folks here. We've got some some familiar names as well. Hey, Jason, welcome back from Europe. Good to see you. Um, so what we're going to do here is the same thing we do every month, is where you guys ask questions and I do my best to answer them. This is completely up to y'all. So if you ask questions, I will answer them. If you don't ask questions, we'll just talk about Brian being out on a houseboat right now. So it's just cool that he can like do that from a houseboat, right? Um, so if you're going to ask questions, we ask that you put them in the Q&A panel. It just makes it a lot easier for us to manage and track the questions. Feel free to use the chat though to chat with your friends and give us a hard time and let us know where you're from, because that's what seems to be happening in the chat right now. I'm in Colorado, in case anybody is wondering. It's a balmy 51 degrees here right now. What's the temperature where you're at, Brian?
87.
87. There you go. So we're a little bit separated here. Jason's from Minnesota. Or I'm sorry, Minnesota. There we go.
I don't think it's 87 degrees there.
Probably not. All right. So what I always like to do with these sessions is, while you guys are frantically trying to be the first person to put a question in the Q&A so that I answer it during the session, is I like to show off a little something in Civil 3D or sometimes AutoCAD. Um, and this time, what I wanted to do is I wanted to touch a bit on the transparent commands, because I love the transparent commands. I think they're really, really fantastic tools that not enough people use or don't use enough. And I'm just going to go show a couple of different ways these can be used. So yeah, let's get into it. So I've got some points in this drawing, so I figured we might as well go ahead and start with some points. Can I freeze off some of these layers? Come on. There we go. Let's get rid of some of these things here. I just want the property corners. That's parcel. Give me just a second here. And go ahead and turn off all these points except for the parcels. There we go. All right, so I've got some points in here, and let me go ahead and change my drawing scale so these will be a little bit easier to read. All right, so you can see the property corners and you can see the point numbers. We got like 1564, 65, there's 63, 62, 61, 60. And what I need to do is I need to draw some lines through these points, right? Now, I could just do a polyline and then I could snap to the node, right? So I can use a node snap to snap to a point, but that's a lot of snaps. And so what we can do is we can use the transparent commands. Now up here on the ribbon, you can see I've got my transparent command ribbon activated, right? I also have them on the toolbar over here on the right-hand side. So these are also my transparent commands. And the way most of your transparent commands work is you can invoke them anytime your Civil 3D is asking you to pick a point on the screen, right? So if I were to come in here right now and say, I want to use a point object, it's like, hey, dumbass, it has to be called from within another command, right? So I'm going to start the polyline command. So just PL for polyline. And now I'm going to go into the point object transparent command. And now I can select a point object. And what it's doing is the polyline command is asking me to pick a point on the screen so I can use a transparent command to calculate said pick point. So I want to do it from point 556. So I just select that point. And then I want to go down over here to 576. I pick that point as well. If you notice, I'm picking on the label, not even the point object itself, and it still is able to draw that line. And then I can continue to pick points and draw through those lines. All right. Now, maybe I want to close this polyline right now. So how do we close a polyline? Well, you type C, enter for close, and it says, hey, that's not a valid point object. So it's still asking for a point object. Right. So what we can do is you hit escape once. I know it's really tough to hit escape only once, but you just hit it once and it takes you out of the transparent command back into whatever command you were in. So now I can do C for close and it goes ahead and closes it. Right? So I'll go ahead and erase that. Right? So let's see. I've got point numbers. Let's go 575 up through 1570. What was that? 15. No, that's not. Where is it? 1556 up through 1565. Now I need to draw a line through those points. Now I could snap point to point to point to point or do the point object, but I can also invoke it using a point number. So I'll do PL for polyline again. And this time I'm going to choose point number. Right? And so I want to type in 1556. I hit enter and it's just picked that point on the screen for me. Right? I can then do 1557, enter, and it goes to the next one. So you can see it being drawn down here. And then 1557, oops. And then 1558, those are all really close to each other. 1559, 50, that's a lot of typing. I don't want to have to do that, right? So let me go ahead and undo that. So I'll start over. So you can use a point number range as well. So I do point number. Point number, there we go. And I do 1556 through hyphen 1565. And you can see it draws that line for me. And it connects all of those points for me. Now I want to go 73, 72, 71, 70, 69. So I actually want to go backwards through the points. I'm still in the transparent command. It's asking me for the next point. So I can do 1573 through 1569. I'm going backwards through those points, that point range. And it goes through and connects them for me. And again, I hit escape once to exit out of the transparent command, and I'm back into the regular prompts for whatever command I was in. Right. And this works for any command in AutoCAD, at least any that I'm aware of, that is asking you to pick a point on the screen.
How many people do you think can only ever hit AutoCAD one time?
What was that?
How many AutoCAD users do you think will actually only hit the escape key one time?
I know, right? I mean, you walk through any office and you hear this all day long, right? The tapping of the keyboard.
Yeah,
right? The pounding on that keyboard is like, I always like to use the joke. He's like, pound the escape key several thousand times, right? Yeah, Robert Riley says 4 times minimum. I typically
Jason's like, that's an option to hit it once. What?
Yeah, I only hit it once, but I just hold on it for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, there you go, Brian.
I will give you a tip with the escape key though. The harder you hit it, the better it works.
Yeah, it's the same with the elevator doors too, right? The harder
exactly.
After it closes.
So you had a couple follow-up questions to that, Brian, but we have no new questions. So he's going to have to continue to talk about this, or you guys are going to have to hear about I got to watch 15 vultures eat fish carcasses yesterday if you don't decide to put some questions in here. So Robert had a follow-up. It says, does that PO command use the point elevation or the insertion elevation of the point?
That's a good question. I believe it uses the point elevation. So let me putting some layers back on here. Right. So the points that I was just doing didn't have any elevation. This particular point, as you can see, has the elevation of 436.88 assigned to the point. And if I mouse over it here, we can see down there. So if you're looking down here as I mouse over the grip, you can see it is also being displayed at elevation 436.88. But where is that setting? Where do you change the point display? Is that the style? I believe it's in the style.
It depends. If the style is hard coded onto the point, you're going to have to go into the point itself and change it. Or if it's set to
geometry, there it is.
Whatever point group it's assigned to.
Yeah. So I think it's so within the point style, you can tell it to flatten the points to an elevation exaggerated. So I'm going to flatten these to elevation 0. So now when I mouse over this, if you look down there at the bottom, you can see this is now at, so if I do an ID, right? So if I run the ID command and I snap to the node, you can see the elevation is now 0, even though the elevation of the point is 436.88. But if I use the transparent command,
yeah.
Right, so I'm just going to do polyline. And we'll do point number 1526, and then escape once, click somewhere else. You see the elevation of this is 436.88. So it does use the elevation of the point itself, not the display elevation of the point object.
And
Now-
would OSNAP-Z ignore that?
This isn't an object snap.
Yeah, you did a point. You drew a line directly from a point. So by identifying the point number that you wanted to draw from, it's going to assume all values of that point number. Now, if Brian was to go back and draw a polyline and he was using his center snap or the node snap, then it
Right.
should come up with a 0 elevation.
Yeah, absolutely will. So you can see this is
And-
now at elevation 0 here.
And that is so beneficial when doing 2D line work using points from a survey, because it's, you want to try to keep that, unless you're using them as break lines, then you want to go back and use elevations.
And there you go. That answered 3 questions and comments all in one thing.
No.
Nice. Yep.
All righty. So Kevin had one. Not sure if this is a follow-up question. That Kevin from Central Florida said, is it possible to associate a point group with an alignment so station and offset information can be placed in a point label or table? And again, we're still looking for more questions as Brian ponders and thinks about that one.
So I don't think so. So if I believe ThinkPack, which is an add-on program for Civil 3D, does have that ability. Adds that ability to it to be able to put station offset information into a table in the drawing or a point table, but I don't think it's out of the box at all. I think
No.
there is a report that we can do. So if you come over here to the toolbox, to your reports manager, points, there is station offset 2 points.
Yep.
So you can create a report that has that information, but I don't know how to display that information in the drawing itself. Do you know any way to do that, Brian?
I cheat. Okay, so here's my cheaty method. Okay, I'll actually use pipe structures as a point. So I will mimic a point that uses a pipe structure, and that way my structure can then be assigned to an alignment, and it'll give me a station offset, northing and easting, and elevation of that item. And it's not a point, but it is a structure, and you can still export those out as well. So it is something that it's a cheat that I've used in a while.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
people who
I-
don't know about your cheat get into your file and blow it all up by, why is there a pipe structure here? Delete.
Right. So a lot of label styles can display other information. Like, so for example, if we come into a point label style, or I'm sorry, spot elevation style for a surface, right? Within here, you can come into the layout tab and you can create what's known as a reference text. And this text can reference other objects.
Including a point.
Yeah, including a Kogo point, a Kogo point, right?
Yeah.
So this label can only reference that one Kogo point. I don't think point labels have that option, but let's go find out. Yeah, so you can see point labels don't have an option for a reference text.
It's another item that you can't data reference either, unfortunately.
You can kind of reference them if you're using the survey database,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it definitely doesn't have that data reference, which I think is a shame. I think you should be able
Yes.
to data reference points.
Yep.
All right. While we're waiting for some additional points to questions to come in, let me go ahead and change this back the way it was. That was parcel. All right. Couple other things I want to talk about is, station offset, right? If you have if you know something's going to needs to be at a specific station and offset. So I'm just going to draw a circle, C for circle. Turn my dynamic mode back on. There we go. All right, C for circle. And I know it needs to be at station 5+00 offset 50 feet to the right. Right. Again, you can do, different transparent commands. That's profile. There's my station offset for an alignment. Right. So station offset. So I'll go ahead and click that. It's going to ask me which alignment. So I select the alignment, and now it's asking me for the station. Now I could just click for the station, or I can type in the station. So I'm going to type in station 500. You don't need to put the plus. I think actually putting the plus in this for the 5+00 actually breaks it. That's right. I think this is one that did. Maybe they fixed that. Oh, they must have fixed it. And then I can do an offset of, say, 50 feet. And it's drawn my circle. Where's my circle? Well, let's think back to the circle command. The circle command asks you to pick a center point and then pick a point for the radius. So now it's asking me for the station and offset for the radius pick point. Well, I don't want to do that. I just want to be able to type it in. So again, I hit escape once, takes me out of the transparent command, back into the regular prompts of the circle command. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to do a radius of, I don't know, say 20 feet. And there it is. Right? Great stuff here. Now, if you're like me, you like to type stuff. So if I mouse over this station offset, you can see there is the command SO for station offset. Right? So if I do that again, so I type C for circle, and then I just type SO, it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. Because the transparent command actually isn't SO, it's apostrophe SO. The apostrophe there is really easy to miss. So let's try that again. So I do C for circle, and then apostrophe SO, and now I'm in the station offset command.
Are all the transparent commands still apostrophe shortcut?
Yep. And we've been using transparent commands for years and years and years within CAD, right? Look at all the transparent commands I'm doing right now. You can do these while you're in the middle of a line, a command. So I'm drawing a line, and oh, look, I'm panning and I'm zooming. These are transparent commands. You can actually invoke the transparent command. So I'm drawing a line, and I can do an apostrophe P for pan. And now I'm panning within the command, hit escape once, and I'm back to drawing the line again. It's just the middle mouse button makes it so much quicker and easier to do because it automates all that for you.
I was going to say, you're getting back into some old DOS-based / digitizer / pre-3-button mouse commands now.
Right. Right. Same concept for profile views. Let's change the scale here a bit. That looks a bit better, right? You can do a station, elevation, and a profile view, but one that I think is really cool is I know that, I need to draw something directly, whatever the elevation of the surface is at this station. What station is that? Let's go 600, right? So I'll just kind of draw a circle here just to kind of mark that spot, right? So I need to start at the elevation of the surface at station 600. What elevation is that? I don't care. I don't care what the value of the elevation is. I just know I need to start at that elevation. So I'm just going to use a polyline. You could use a profile editing command, but I'm just going to draw a polyline. Right? And I wanted to start there. So up here on the profile, let's see, where is it? Station from plan. No, that's not it. Maybe it's, I have to do it from the toolbars over here. I know it's here somewhere. Profile, station, and elevation from plan. That's what it's called, right? So that's the command I want to use. Right? It's going to ask me for the profile view, so I'll select the profile view. It's going to ask me for the surface. I'll go ahead and select the surface. And then it's going to ask me for the point, right? And again, I want to start at station 6, 6+00. So I'll type in station 600. No, it didn't do that. Did it? Yep, there it goes. And then again, I'll hit escape. And now I'm drawing the rest of my polyline. And you see it's smack on right there. I didn't have to snap to anything. I just said, hey, I want the elevation of the surface at this station. And I want to pick that point in that specific profile view. And these are just a few of them. You've got like, it seems like not all. Oh, there it is. Profile station elevation from plan. I was like, it's got to be up there on the ribbon somewhere. I typically use the toolbar for these rather than the ribbon, just because I don't know. That's the way I originally learned it. The ribbon was added in a bit later, profile grade and elevation, profile station and elevation from Kogo Point. Really, really great tools up here. I highly if you're not using your transparent commands, I highly recommend you get into them.
Yeah, at the very least, I have the little toolbar that's on the little right-hand side of your screen. That's just it's a mainstay now.
Mhm. Yeah.
So Kevin did say thanks. He had a client wanting to see northing and eastings and elevation at every station 10 feet along a runway center line. They placed the points on the alignment and copied the information to the alignment tab in Project Explorer. So maybe
Yeah.
you can try Brian Thomas's hack of using your, what was it, pipe system to do that?
Yeah, we just used any pipe structure. You can actually define the structure itself. We've got one called point, and it's just a little dot or an X or however you want your point to show up. And you can label it, being that it's got unique names to it anyways, you can use it as the point number, and it can totally mimic points.
And then Thomas wondered if the point label style could have helped Kevin in that situation? Question mark.
The point label style for a point itself will not allow for reference text to an alignment, so
Right.
it's not really
It
helpful.
doesn't allow for any reference text.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be a good solution for it.
I think it was the first thing they did in Civil 3D 2005 and then just left it. Sorry, Brian. They're like, nope, good enough. Wipe our hands. We're done. They haven't
No,
given the love it
Autodesk
needs.
yeah, Autodesk would never just be like, yeah, it's kind of working. We're done. Never, they would never do something like that.
No, never.
No, never.
All right. So Robert asked a question looking for a way to label alignments with the alignment name and have the label rotate to match the alignment in a note label. Using reference, I can get the alignment name. Is there a way to get the alignment direction to rotate to the label as well?
You can do it by view, or you can do it by, but you won't be able to do it by the object because your alignment, it's not going to be linear. It's going to be curvilinear, right? It's not going to just follow one continuous line. And I know the label, we can make it so it's either looking at the view or looking at the world view. I think there are three options, right, Brian?
Yeah, so there's view, there's object, and then there's world.
Yep.
So you would have to label something that can label the object. So I think if you want to label, okay, Robert. So I'm assuming you're like, hey, I want to label the name of this street in this plan view for a subdivision, and I'm gonna label it several times, and I want it to be aligned with the alignment. Is that kind of what you're getting towards here, Robert?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So hey, look, I got an alignment. I want to put a label on here, right? So the way I would do it is I would use either a line or a curve label for the alignment. I think that would be the best way to do that. So we'll come down here to my alignment, label styles, line, and I'll just create a new one here called street name. All right, the layout. I don't need most of this stuff, so I'm going to get rid of it all. And then I will just simply add in a text component. And this will just be the street name. Let's see if I can. Street name. Visibility will be a true. Label mode. The anchor component will be the feature. I want it to attach to the alignment itself. The contents would then, in here, would just, the label text would be the alignment name. It's built right in here. I can always have it be capitalized if I wanted it to, which I'll go ahead and do here. Text height, the rest of this was up to you. So maybe we want to make this bottom center, pop it off a little bit. You can add some X and Y offsets. And now I can come in here and label the line. So if I go annotate, add labels, alignment, single segment, line label style would be the alignment name. Go ahead and choose add, select it, and it puts it in there for me. Now, you might be in a, so this is nice because you can just drag it along the alignment and it just moves right along with it. Right, and, so if I drag it up over here, it's not gonna let me drag it over there. Let me add another label here.
Yeah, you went past a circle, well, a PI point, so you're gonna have to re-label it.
Single, we'll just do multiple segment. Get them all,
Oh no.
right? And so you can see it's aligned there, it's aligned there. If I change the alignment, it stays aligned with it, right? The one thing you got to be careful of is if I pull this off into the drag state, it goes back to being horizontal. Maybe I just need to pull it out just a smidge because there's something in the way there, right? Maybe there's an island and the line work's getting over, and I just need to like bump it down just this one a little bit. So once you get this done this way, assuming you don't actually want the arrow within the style, on the drag state tab, set this to as composed. And then the arrow visibility, I would set to false.
Now, Brian, I'm going to ask, after you show this, I'm going to give another little example of what we kind of do as well. So if you want to have the line or the leader to it, you could actually turn the leader arrowhead to 0 or 0.001, and then that'll just give you a straight line attached to it without an arrow. But it will, yeah, if you leave it as composed, it's going to look funky. So
yeah,
we can sometimes go back and forth with that. But yep,
yeah.
that's.
But this way I can just shift it off just a little bit, so it's not in that island or whatever's in the other object is in the way there. So that's the approach I would take, Robert. What do you think? Did this work for you?
These are, yep, that works.
Awesome.
Now, if you move the alignment, Brian, will the label stay in the same spot, or should move with it, right?
That's a good question. So it does move with it. It does stay oriented. Now, if there is a reason that you wanted it to stay here, and this is just kind of common for labels in general in the drag state, if you select it, you can toggle the label pin. So you can see it is now pinned. See that big red thing? That means it's pinned. That means it's going to stay there when the object it's referencing moves.
That's an awful big pin.
Right? Nothing huge.
Do you like it though?
Yeah, and then if you need to, you can always just toggle the label pin again. And this is just something that's common for labels in general. It's not specific to alignment line labels.
All right. Sean has a question. Can you edit an imported assembly made in another Civil 3D drawing? Last time I did that, I was not able to edit it. I just don't want to make the assembly from scratch again.
How did you import it into the drawing? Did you use the tool palettes? Did you copy paste? Did you W block and insert? What process did you use, Sean?
I think he used the force, told it to come in.
I saw a cartoon. It showed two people talking. One guy says, "May the force be with you," and the other one was like, "Well, why did you say that?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's just something my grandma used to say." And then the caption was, "I wonder what it's going to be like the last time Star Wars is ever referenced." Okay, so you used a new palette. Okay, well let's try it. Did you just use the basic subassemblies that come with Civil 3D, or did you have like custom PKT files on it?
Copied on the new palette, yes.
Okay, just the standard ones. Perfect. All right, so I've got my tool palettes here. I've got a custom one that I've been using for some stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and add it there. We'll go ahead and create an assembly, create assembly, call it whatever. And then we'll add a lane to it. We'll add a curb. And just to be complete, we'll add a daylight. Super simple. And then we'll mirror all this over to the other side. So what we should be able to do is just be able to take this and drag this onto here. So I'm going to select the assembly, right? I'm not just picking any of the sub-assemblies. And I should be able to drag this to my tool palette here. Right? And there is that assembly. So if you've got these assemblies that you're constantly, let's say, for example, you work in northern Colorado in Larimer County, they've got the Larimer County Urban Area Street Standards. You could create all of your sub-assemblies based off of those street standards and create a tool palette for those. And then whenever you go into a new drawing, I'm just creating a new drawing here, you should just be able to click on that assembly, click in your drawing, and there it is. All right, and it should be fully editable. So I should be able to come in here and say, oh, no, this one actually needs to be 24 feet wide. So that's the approach I would use, Sean. I'm not sure if you did something different, but that should work for you.
How about if you had edited it on the
filled with anticipation? I think you might have hit enter too early there, Sean.
I hate that. There's too many programs where enter is right next to the send or the send button or whatever. It's like, oh
yeah.
Like how many times have you been on a Zoom meeting and you went to a stop presenting and you hung up?
All right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love how they put those that close together.
Original drawing.
So if you edit it in the original drawing, so here I'm back in the original drawing, and we'll make this left hand, 50 feet just to be obnoxious. And I'll go ahead and save this drawing. All right, so I've saved. So I took this assembly, added it to the tool palette, made a change to the assembly in this drawing, saved this drawing. I'm going to go create a brand new drawing. Now it's a runway, right, Thomas? All right, so I'm going to go insert that same assembly again. What you'll notice is it doesn't have that extra wide piece to it. Right? This is not a block. So the way blocks work with tool palettes is you'll take a block and add it to the tool palette. And what you're doing is you're adding a point to that block in that drawing. So if you change the block in that drawing, the next time you insert it into a new drawing, you're going to get that changed piece. That is not what is happening with assemblies. When you add the assembly to your tool palette, it takes the assembly and copies it into the bowels of the Civil 3D support file somewhere. And so that's what it's referencing. It's not referencing the assembly in this drawing. All right. And so when you insert it into the new drawing, it's going to be exactly the same as it was when you added it to the tool palette. Does that answer the question, Sean? Explain more. Okay. I don't know if we can access it here or not. If I go to the properties, I don't know if it shows us where it gets it from. It does not. Gosh, where does it come from? So
Thomas said, so it's definitely just copying data, not making a reference to the original data.
It is definitely not a reference.
Yeah.
It is a when you add it to the tool palette, it copies it to the tool palette. It doesn't reference the original the way blocks do. I think it's under program data. Autodesk. Oh, I'm in 25. Assemblies? Yep, there it is right there. All right. So there is that tool palette, that assembly that I added to the tool palette. You can see it's got today's date and everything, right? So this is the drawing that it's referencing for that. It's not referencing the original drawing. So if I just open up this drawing here real quick.
So then my question is, could you overwrite that drawing that it put there? And now it's updated on the tool palette.
I'm sure you could. I've never tried it before. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in here and edit it in this drawing and see what happens, if it'll let me. It doesn't seem to be wanting to open that drawing. There we go. All right. So we'll make this one really short. So instead of 12 feet, it'll be 2 feet. We'll go ahead and close that.
Now it's a runway for model planes.
Again, I'm going into a brand new blank drawing, so we remove options from the other ones, and then now when I insert it, you can see it's got that short side on it. So you have to go find the drawing that the tool palette is referencing, and make the change to it, and then it will change on any ones that you insert it into from there on. And just so for folks that might not have seen it, right, it's C, program data, Autodesk, Civil 3D, whatever version you're using, ENU, assemblies.
So since it's program data coming off of your machine, so no one else is going to see that.
Correct.
Oh, good Lord. I hope that, so the problem I have with that is program data itself is sometimes in larger corporations, something that people can't access.
Mhm.
So if you didn't have read access, or excuse me, write access to that folder, then you wouldn't be able to drag and do that on a tool palette.
Affirmative.
Yeah, if you don't have write access to it, you wouldn't be able to. But in my experience, most people have the hidden items turned off in the view within File Explorer. And I think program data is one of those. So if we come back to, yeah, so you can see program data is not being displayed here. Just because Windows like, you don't need to see that. Really? Do you? Yeah, no, you don't need to see that. So by default, it's turned off in Windows. So
I always hate when we get a new installed Windows. It's like, God dang it, I got to go turn all that crap on that I want to see.
So I always turn on the hidden items and the file name extension. So when I turn on my hidden items, you can see that program data is here. And you can see that the folder icon's a little bit toned back from the other ones. Like the OneDrive temp, what else do we have in here? Looks like it's just those two. So
Sean had another follow-up. So once you find the drawing, can you just copy and paste or drag that drawing in? Would that be the same as the tool palette?
Yeah, absolutely you could. And another thing you could do, because this is in, saved to your system, is you could create a drawing that contains all of your assemblies, and your assemblies are actually in blocks in that drawing. And then you can just take those blocks, add them to your tool palette, and then when you insert the tool into your drawing, just have it automatically explode. Never tried that, but it should work.
And if you wanted to share that with other people, you could actually put it on a network location and
put that drawing up on the network location, just like you do with all of your other symbols,
cool
right?
Stuff. Yeah.
So that's what we do with all of our tool palettes here, right? These blocks are in a drawing that is up on that everybody has access to, and there it is.
Yeah, should is a magic. Should is a 4-letter word in my book, y'all. You'll always see me air quote that.
Should that's why I said should and not would work. Should is a nice way of saying I think it'll work, maybe. Don't take my word for it on that one. All right, we need some more questions in here, folks.
So Sean has one more question with our 20 minutes left.
Okay.
Basically, can you convert a Latin long point to a coordinate system? Does that exist in Civil 3D?
So that's a great question, Sean. It depends. How you do it depends upon what you've got, right? So if you say to a northern and eastern coordinate, what is that? Is it a state? Oh, you did say state plane coordinate system. Sorry, in the question. So yes, you absolutely can do that. The easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is when you're importing it into the drawing, right? So if you've got a point file that's in Latin long, as you import it into the drawing, you can have it convert it for you automatically to whatever coordinate system the drawing is in, right? Or I shouldn't say whatever coordinate system, to the coordinate system the drawing is in, right? If you're working in different drawings that are in different coordinate systems, you'd have to set them up differently. So you can't just say, do it to whatever the coordinate system of the drawing is. If you're just trying to create a point in the drawing and you've got the northern or the latitude and longitude of the point, that's where the transparent commands would come in.
Yep.
Right. So if I come back over here to my transparent command, you'll notice there is a latitude longitude button here. Right. So if I'm drawing a circle, I would, you know, I'm using a circle as an example, but it could be, again, anytime it's asking you to pick a point on the screen, right? It's asking me to pick a point. I can come in here and choose latitude, longitude, and then I could type in the latitude and longitude. Now, this particular drawing, it's not working because it doesn't have a coordinate system assigned to it. So if you notice, it says no coordinate system found down here. So it's not letting me do it in this drawing. But I think this drawing has a coordinate system assigned to it, if I remember right. Right. So this drawing does have a coordinate system assigned to it. I don't know where this is. I think it's in Oregon somewhere. Right. So now if I draw C for circle and I come up here to latitude and longitude, it's asking me to type in the latitude. And then when I hit enter, it'll ask me to type in the longitude. And it'll pick that for the whatever it is I'm drawing or inserting or whatever the case may be.
I think you can also do that as display as a label style too. Can you not?
But I have to get it in the drawing first.
Yes, yes. You would have to first off establish a coordinate system first, and then put that into the label style itself. So that way you could show coincidentally consecutive, well, whatever word. Yeah,
right.
Both at the same time, the northern, eastern, and lat long.
Right. So Sean clarified with a little bit in the Q&A that he has an Excel file sent from a third party that has latitude and longitude that he needs to create points in the drawing. So
yeah, that'll be nice and easy.
Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to create a new point file format. Right. So on the settings tab, point file formats. Right. This is where you get your PNEZDs and the PENZs and your NEZs and all of this fun stuff. Right. And so what you'll need to do is you'll need to create a brand new point file format. And the way you create this depends upon that Excel file that you've got. So Sean, I'm going to assume your point file has a point number, a latitude, a longitude, and maybe a description. It doesn't have to have a description. I'm just going to assume it has an elevation and a description. So 4 pieces of data there, right? So I'll just go ahead and create new. This is going to be a user point file. I've never used user point database before. I'm not even sure what this is for, honestly. So I always just use user point file. And it brings up this fun thing. So this would be, so I think this is an OR-S import from lat long. All right, something like that. So the default, I don't know, I'll set it to a CSV, coordinate zone transformation. So this is asking what coordinate system is the Excel file in? All right, so this would probably be lat long, right? Be my guess. All right. The format options, because I'm doing this as a CSV is a comma separated values. I'm going to say that the format option was delimited by a comma. Right? And then I need to tell this point file format what each of these columns represents. So I'm going to assume that the first column is the point number. So I'll just simply choose point number here. And then the second one is the latitude. Now, latitude can be written in lots of different ways, so you have to be aware of that. So if I choose this and I come down here to latitude, so you can see there's latitude, or maybe you've got it broken up. So one column is the degrees of the latitude, the next column is the minutes of the latitude, the next column is the seconds of the latitude. So I can choose one of those, or maybe it's decimal degrees latitude rather than latitude, degrees, minutes, seconds. So you got to make sure to choose the correct one. I'm just going to use decimal degrees latitude. And then I'll also choose decimal degrees longitude for the next one. Another thing to make note of is the precision. Right? This is latitude and longitude. Typically, a precision of 4 is not enough. So I'm going to change that to 8. And I should have done the same thing for this other one as well. I'll just double click on that. And I can change it to 8. And then maybe the next one is the elevation and the description, right? And so this is how it's set up. So when I have a point file that's using this format, when I import that into my drawing as points, it will do that conversion for me if you want it to. And that there's a little kicker there, right? So now when I go insert points, I'll go insert points from file, right? So I'm just choosing insert points from file here. There's an option down here to do the coordinate transformation if possible. So in order for this to be possible, one, your point file format, which should be up here now. Did I not save it? Oh, there it is. Or is that, right? Your point file format has to have a coordinate system assigned to it. It has to have column information that can be converted, and your drawing has to have a different coordinate system assigned to it. And this coordinate transformation, if possible, has to be toggled on. And then I would add in that point file, hit OK. And there they are in Northing and Eastings in my drawing. Were you able to follow that, Sean? Awesome. And if you ever need to, I'm going to be posting this up on my YouTube channel. So if you want to come back and review it again, it'll be up there.
And then while you were showing how to draw elements using the points, John had posted out that even though your lat and long might be degrees, minutes, seconds, as you're typing them in to draw points, you can just type in decimal and it will do the conversion for you.
Yep. Will it?
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm just saying what John said.
no, I was thinking of the angles. I was thinking of bearings, not latitude, longitude.
So I had a question earlier, Haley. You had mentioned that, hey, when you're setting this up, you can go download the layer systems for whatever jurisdiction you're in. Do you know roughly how many jurisdictions have those settings for you? Like do
No. They weren't settings.
Okay.
They were standards.
Standard, right. But do you know how
It
many
was
of
a
them have
book
like
that says this street needs to be this wide.
Got it.
And then you could create the assemblies that match those written standards.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are there jurisdictions that like have templates and things like that for you guys to use that use their layer systems, or is it just a crappy PDF that says, hey, here's what you have to do?
It depends upon who you're talking about. Wisconsin DOT and the Florida DOT have downloads that you can get that have all sorts of standards. Thomas put in the chat that the city of Seattle does. So it depends upon where you are. I don't know of anybody in this area where I live that has them built out for consultants to use.
No, I was just curious because on the Revit workflow, I'm creating stuff like that. I'm like, God, why do these people not just supply it for us? I'm gonna go spend 2 weeks doing this, and every person who follows me has spent 2 weeks, and prior to me has spent 2 weeks creating this damn stupid document.
Yep. But yeah, as Nathan put in the chat, it's usually a crappy PDF.
Yep. That's what I figured. I was just checking.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, so the example that I used was the Larimer County Urban Area Street Standards. Yes, it is abbreviated LCUASS. It's great. If you look through there, you'll see, you know, like the arterial collector, it shows the cross section. It shows two cross sections because it's standard, but the one says Fort Collins only and the other one says Loveland only.
That's funny.
So it's standard throughout the county as long as you're not in one of those cities, I guess.
Yeah. And I also love the fact that, you know, you mentioned their acronym, like the Port of Seattle. They've got a great acronym. Always
Right.
dealing with those POS standards.
Yeah, I worked for a company called Applied Software Technology Incorporated, ASTI. And I always thought of myself as a nasty boy.
Well, it wasn't II, so.
My very first project job working with an architect, I was deemed a project associate, and I never want to spell out ASSOC. I'm like, God, you're only missing 3 letters at that time, so I was just project ass. That was my abbreviation. Project ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. One large client said they had standards, and they sent me 1-page Word file from 1996.
Ouch.
I think it was about 2 years ago. I got a group's CAD standards and their PDF that they had sent us, and literally on the freaking front cover was a freaking old compact Presario tube monitor, big old computer, and that was like CAD or BIM standards. And I'm like, really, really? And inside of there still said we had to print to Vellum. I'm like, can you even buy Vellum anymore?
Wow.
Yeah, hats off to those that know what a um oh my God, a
So long
CRT
ago, you can't even remember what it's called now.
what a CRT stands for.
Yeah.
Right? I still love that the save icon is a floppy disk.
Hmm.
Like, come
Yep.
on.
It's like one of my favorite memes is a kid looking at his dad. Dad, you 3D printed the save icon.
Yeah. If you couldn't tell, we're out of questions.
Yep.
Well, it is only 8 minutes early, so
Yeah. Nobody else? All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up a little bit early. Greg did put into the Q&A to a little memorial for Terry Dotson. If you're not familiar with who Terry Dotson is, he is a programmer that has done some amazing work creating custom routines for the CAD community. He passed away, what, 2 or 3 months ago? Can't remember how long ago it was. But yeah, I've learned a lot from Terry. I know a lot of people have. He was a staple on the Autodesk forum. So um, yeah, it's always nice to remember folks. Scott put in a question, where's a good place to get CAD standards?
from a 1996 Word document. Come on.
Page Word document.
Hey, at least it's in Word, so you can copy and paste stuff.
That's true. It really depends upon what you're doing, Scott. If you're working in a state that has a DOT that has standards, you could borrow one of theirs. If you're working in a state that doesn't have DOT standards, you could go download the standards from a state that has the standards and use those. You could subscribe to the National CAD standards. The template that comes with Civil 3D is kind of standardy. You might have to add to it, but it so depends upon what it is you're doing.
I
mean,
think if you don't like any of those standards, you create your own entirely new standard because that, for some reason, is what our industry does.
I mean, start with an already documented standard like NCS or AIA,
Yeah.
and start from there.
I say you trust Autodesk and just use the CAD standards they have because they absolutely know what they're doing when it comes to standards.
So even though that's dripping with sarcasm, and I agree with Brian to a point, they do have some of their templates already preset with the standards in there, but there is definitely some left to be desired.
Okay, so they fixed it, but which I'm really, really disappointed in. But the default template that shipped, God, I can't speak, that shipped with Civil 3D for many, many years, there was a point label style that was description only. And I was showing this off to somebody, I think it was a client or something, might have been in a class, I'm not exactly sure. All my points were showing the description, the elevation, and they're like, oh, but we just want to see the description. I'm like, it's simple. They just go into the point group, assign the description only, and now every single one of their points had the letters BOB and then the description. Somebody had put in the name Bob before the description in that label style, which is just hilarious.
And it looks like a lot of people are posting in the chat. The AEC drafting standards are close to NCS, Army Corps standards, WisDOT, Florida Dot, Civil 3D based downloadable. Seattle has things, PennDOT, couple even links inside of there. So if you guys are here live, you'll get access to all of those links.
Yeah.
That was a funny Easter egg, though.
It was awesome. And so I constantly showed that off. And then one year I'm like, check this out. And it wasn't there anymore. So
That's like playing with the MS jig string.
yeah, that's a fun. Well, we do that here. I don't know if you can see it. It changes with our seasons. So whoever was CAD manager before me found this routine that would change the jig string based off of the date.
That's
I
awesome.
think it's kind of fun.
Does it even say things like Happy Halloween, Merry Christmas? So if you're crazy enough to work on Christmas,
Well, so the problem is it's very limited in the number of characters you can have.
got it.
Yeah.
So I tried to put in there Brian needs a raise one time at my old company, and it was just too many characters.
Brian Rocks fits.
So yeah, if
So
you know, it's the MT jig string. This is the system variable. Right. So do you have to put it in quotes? I don't think you have to put it in quotes, do you? Brian Rocks. And now when you go create a piece of text, and see it says Brian Rock. Brian Rock, not Brian Rocks. That's too many characters. Looks like you're limited to 10 characters. But there you go. All right, I guess with that, we will go ahead and call this a day. Thank you, everybody. We will see you again next month, first Tuesday of the month as normal. And y'all have a fantastic day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.